waste your time with me.
To effectively deconstruct this guitar solo, we have to dig deep and talk about this song, as well as some of the cornerstones that make Phish what it is. This song, Waste, is one of the most strangely polarizing tunes in Phish's entire catalog. I've heard countless fans tell me that they've walked down the aisle to the song.
I dream it's true. I see it through. If I could be wasting my time with you. Let's have a nice round of applause.
I also know diehards with triple-digit stats complain that the song is a little too poppy and perhaps even a bit cliche for their tastes. I was in agreement with the second camp up until I watched the film Bittersweet Motel. I first heard Waste on Billy Breathes, and it fell flat to me. It's a beautiful tune, don't get me wrong, but I didn't get where it fit into the band's catalog or in my life as a listener. I was a sophomore in high school when I first saw this performance of Waste from 12/11/97 in Rochester, New York. I ran out to a Borders bookstore in my hometown and I picked up a copy of Bittersweet Motel on VHS. I could give you the obvious explanation about when the song finally clicked. I could say that I got older, fell in love, and I realized how sincere and timeless the song and its lyrics really are. Now, all of that is true, but it's entirely too subjective when it comes to analyzing this guitar solo and demystifying Trey's brilliant guitar work, which is the point of this video. But watching Bittersweet Motel years later, I learned something deeper about this song that added a new layer of understanding about Phish and that made me love and appreciate them that much more. A key part about the enigma of this band isn't just their musicianship, but it's about their ability to resolve contrast. Phish is fully unique in the way that they've mastered reconciling opposites, which we'll see is a theme that Trey touches on in the solo. On one hand, Phish is a band that is extremely playful and almost childlike in their sense of wonderment in their approach. At the same time, they've got this old-school tenacity for obsessive, long-term hard work and discipline that would make even Mr. Miyagi cry tears of joy. In one moment, they're a bar band crashing their way through cowboy chords and classic rock-style pentatonic solos. The next minute, they show their turn-on-a-dime way of improvising and sailing through their intricate compositions that sets them leagues above any of their contemporaries, or any band in modern history for that matter. Even in the lyrics of Waste, we have the main character who's lamenting about a number of traits through metaphors. Traits that he himself obviously possesses and is having a hard time reconciling. I even think there's some dark foreshadowing here that didn't quite come to a head until almost a decade after the song was written.
Police say Trey Anastasio had heroin with him and he was under the influence of painkillers when he was arrested in December in Whitehall.
News Channel 13's Mark Mulholland, who broke the story of his arrest, is live in our Saratoga newsroom. He has more on the top story. Mark.
This song's performance is also a juxtaposition of opposites. The audience is surprised and ultimately delighted at the end, since we don't expect a ripping solo full of 30-second notes and blazing trills over a simple 3-chord ending vamp in a ballad. Now, you don't hear Machine Gun Trey make an appearance at the end of Velvet Sea, do you? So let's get into the mechanics of this guitar solo. So in this solo, 99% of Trey's notes are coming right out of the G major pentatonic scale in the 12th position. Now, the G major pentatonic scale and the E minor pentatonic scale have the exact same notes, so this position may look familiar to a lot of you. So what Trey is playing is and what our ears are kind of taking away is so what he's doing is he's showing us how one note, G, feels in the context behind all 3 chords of the solo, which are G, A minor, and C. So we see that G is the root of the G chord, G is the flat 7th of A minor, and G is the 5th of C. And there's that theme again of contrast. Now, all of those chord tones are relatively stable, but the intense trills that surround these notes immediately hooks us from the very beginning. And that's why in the beginning of this solo, Trey is able to give us that feeling of tension and resolution within just one phrase. We've got these really stable chord tones contrasting with a very intense rhythm. And notice at the end of every phrase, he hits the D note. He hits that note over the C chord. And D is the 9th of C. And what that kind of does is that hooks our ear again and makes us want to listen to what's going to happen next. And what does happen next is that he repeats that first phrase. But notice he doesn't repeat it exactly. Instead of playing that D note twice, he goes right back to that G chord on the 12th fret. Again, so there's a little bit of variation on that. And for the third time around on this phrase, he repeats lick number 1 once more. And then for the 4th time, so what's happening is he plays the first part of the lick that he's been repeating, but then he goes so there's that idea where he's doing these trills, but then he kind of does a double pull-off in the beginning, which breaks up the rhythm and again adds another cool layer of tension. So he repeats that phrase in a similar way for the next one. But notice how he starts with a new note. Again, so he's playing kind of the same thing over and over again, but he's putting these little twists that makes us, again, want to hear what's happening next. And even though all of this is going by really fast, it keeps our interest, because he's not just playing he's not just doing that. I mean, he kind of is, but he's adding a lot of these little twists and turns by just emphasizing different notes and going back to that trill pattern. And then what happens is the solo kind of arcs upward in a beautiful emotional way when he adds the C note. He goes. So that's kind of what our ear hears. And in this solo, we are in the key of G major, and we consider G major as kind of the parent scale. And so he's kind of thinking the G major scale at that point. And the G major scale and the G major pentatonic are very similar. The G major scale has 2 extra notes that the G major pentatonic doesn't have, which are C and F sharp. And Trey is really a master of using notes of the parent scale to provide contrast and create tension over other chords in the progression. So, what does that mean? At the end of the first part of the solo, he plays this really pretty lick over the C chord. He plays. And we've got 4 notes that are right out of the G major pentatonic scale. And remember that he's playing these notes over the C chord. D, B, A, G. Now the C chord is only made up of 3 notes, C, E, and G. And only one of those notes in that little 4-note phrase, only one of those notes is actually within the C chord, and that's the G note. The other 3 notes, D, B, and A, are all extensions of the C chord. D is the 9th of C, as we mentioned before. B is the major 7th of C, and A is the 13th of C. So I'm going to loop a C chord and play these notes, and you can see how beautiful they sound. You can see that these notes sound beautiful, again, because we have that sense of contrast. And these notes of the G major pentatonic don't necessarily sound interesting over the G chord, because they're kind of within that chord. But over the C chord, they have almost an ethereal quality. And then after this, what he does is we're back to the G major pentatonic, but now we're playing it up an octave. So instead of... So we're still in the G major pentatonic scale, but now we're in the 15th position. Now again, he's playing something similar, but with that twist of playing it up an octave. And we've still got these similar pull-off licks. And then we've got that sense of rhythmic displacement again, where we've got licks like... So we're kind of playing these licks and play a couple notes in between and go back to the lick and kind of in and out. And again, that adds to that sense of tension at this part of the solo, where these notes aren't necessarily outside of the scale or anything, but the rhythm adds that sense of tension and excitement that we may not have otherwise. And I talk about this idea in another lesson where I break down a part of Trey's solo on the 12-9 95 You Enjoy Myself, so go check that out if you haven't. And then what he does is he slides back down. Again, all still right in the G major pentatonic scale. So to end the solo, he crashes on the G chord twice. It goes right back down to the A minor. And ends on a big ol' C chord. If you guys enjoyed this lesson, please click the like button and make sure to subscribe for more lessons like this one. And leave a comment if you did or didn't like this lesson. I would love your feedback. If you guys have any requests, I would love to hear them. Make sure you leave them in the comments below. And definitely check out amarguitar.com, where you can look at all the tabs and chord diagrams for this solo. So thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.